our public meeting of the English School District. We've got a fairly heavy agenda today. Welcome to the public who have taken the time to come out and have a listen this afternoon in our media, but also too, for the first time, we're doing a little bit of closed circuit TV that's going out live on the web, so that some of our community stakeholders and the educational community that aren't able to make it to St. John's are able to plug in a little bit on the internet to make sure that they're up to date on some of the developments as is associated with their schools as well. We had one difference with our board today that wasn't the case at our last meeting, is that we did have one of our trustees from the West Coast resign during the period because of the fact that he's moving in and out of the province on too much of a regular basis. That makes it difficult for him to participate at the meetings. We have gone through the process, as you've seen in some correspondence, that we've notified the minister that there is a vacancy, and the minister is actively completing the process of identifying a new trustee for the West Coast. So that decision is imminent, I believe. It's just we haven't received the paperwork on that from the minister yet. Without anything further, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please? So moved by John, seconded by Corey. All those in favor? Aye. Those against? Motion carries. Second item on the agenda would be, or item number 3, is the consideration of the minutes that was circulated to all trustees prior to the meeting. Are there any errors or omissions that anyone would like to identify? Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adopt the minutes as presented? Moved by Peter, seconded by Ray. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the business arising, which deals with the notices of motions that we gave at our last session. I'm going to turn the floor over to Lucy Warren, who's going to work our way through the presentations on the school review process. We've already this morning had a good debate in terms of and a discussion on these reviews. So this is an opportunity for the general public and those on the net to get a further example of what process that we go through and give us that final opportunity to review the elements. Lucy, thank you.
Thank you. Gordon, my monitor's out as well. Okay. Okay, school system reviews. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So we have a school review policy which outlines the mandate of the Board of Trustees is to organize and administer primary, elementary, and secondary education in the district. And in doing so, the board strives to make the best use of our resources, the infrastructure, financial, and human resources that best benefits all of our students. The school review process has a phase 1 consultation, which we did early in the fall. We visited all of our schools that were under review and met with the school councils. That led to our board meeting in November, when the board made their first decision and put forth a notice of motion. We then went into phase 2 consultation, whereby our school communities had another opportunity to provide feedback. And of course, we are here today for potential second board decision. Our school reviews this year involve 6 schools, 2 in the central region, Swift Current Academy and Point Leamington Academy school systems. And in the western region, we have H.L. Strong Academy, St. James High School System, Appalachia High School System, and James Cook Memorial School. In the Swift Current School System, the options for consideration today are to maintain the status quo or close Swift Current Academy. We show you a map of our 2 communities, our 2 school locations, Swift Current Academy and Swift Current Tricentia Academy in Arnold's Cove. This next slide outlines our bus run from Swift Current to Tricentia Academy in Arnold's Cove, and indicates the two routes that come from Garden Cove, Black River, and of course North Harbour. This map outlines the route from Swift Current that the bus would travel. And this one indicates the routes for the two private vehicles that would meet the bus. Student enrollment projections tells us that Swift Current Academy is projected to have between 19 and 25 students from now until 2026. Tricentia will have 175 to 222 students during that same period. So we've determined the Swift Current Academy students can be accommodated at Tricentia Academy, and the maximum enrollment of 228 in 2017 and will decrease to 197 over the next 8 years. In terms of programs and services, there's learning opportunities for students. If they are bused to Tricentia, they'll have access to wider course offerings, more specialist teaching, more integration with age-level peers. The facility at Tricentia poses no concerns for us. There's no facility issues, no repairs needed, no health or environmental concerns. All the infrastructure is there for the programming, and Tricentia has the capacity to accommodate the students from Swift Current. On transportation, the consolidation results in no change in the number of buses, but there is an increase of one private vehicle. The current contract is a 48-passenger bus. Is in place till 2020. The distance from the furthest house to Tricentia is 53 kilometers, and the maximum ride is approximately 45 minutes for students in North Harbour. The estimated cost is $60,000 to $70,000 to extend the existing Swift Current Academy bus route and to add the one private vehicle. The bus stops can be adjusted based on where students live, and of course the afternoon drop-off would be in the reverse order. Financial considerations is that consolidation results in potential savings of $160,000 in operating costs, 2 to 3 teaching units, a half unit of admin time. Of course, we factor in the increase for the busing to go to Tricentia, and it results in a total potential overall savings of $440,000 per year. The feedback summary indicates there were 21 responses. 17 of them came from Swift Current Academy, and all 17 voted no. The feedback themes are travel distance, road conditions, and weather. Keep the school as a K to 6. The school has been reviewed numerous times, and there's significant adverse impact on students and community. During the public meeting, there were 2 presenters. Their themes focused on student transportation, length of ride, road conditions, winter travel, supervision, the future of the community should the school close, and the fact that finances should not be a factor. The recommendation is that we proceed with the closure of Swift Current Academy and rezone students to attend Tricentia Academy. And the rationale for this recommendation comes about as a result of the school review, which has verified the information presented in the school review information booklet, which was the basis of the notice of motion on November 25th. And this information includes that Tricentia Academy has capacity to accommodate students from Swift Current Academy. Student transportation distance and time can be provided within district norms. There is enhanced access to programs and services at the receiving school. There's more opportunities for age-level collaboration and socialization of students, and there is projected savings of $440,000.
Okay, so the practice that we follow when we're dealing with notices of motion is the duty of the vice chair to read the motion and move the motion, and they'll get a seconder, and then he will start the discussion, and we'll go around the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is as follows, as displayed on the screen. Whereas the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District is committed to providing the best possible education programs for students, and whereas school closure is required to achieve that objective, be it resolved that Swift Current Academy will close effective June 2018, and students will be rezoned to attend Tricentia Academy effective September 2018.
Can I have a seconder for the motion, please? Seconded by Lester. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To open debate, as we have seen from the presentation this afternoon, There is a problem with declining enrollment in Swift Current Academy. There is more than adequate room for these students in Tricentia Academy. We have had a thorough discussion of this morning, and therefore I move the motion.
Any discussion? Peter?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to this motion. I will be voting against this motion today to close that school. I have some serious concerns about safety of the students going on the Trans-Canada Highway in that part of the Burin Peninsula. Being from the Burin Peninsula myself, I know how nasty that section can be. And I have some correspondence here from the local MHA, Mark Brown, who wrote us yesterday. And he called on us as trustees to ensure that we were properly informed about this region and the volatile weather conditions before making a decision, saying the safety of students must be paramount in decision making. And it was a concern I had, and if it's a concern for the Member of Parliament or the member of the House Assembly from that area, then I have to vote. I have to think he has the best interest of his constituents at heart. And I got to say, I feel safety is an issue, so I'll be voting against it.
Thank you, Peter. Any further discussion? Kevin? Sorry, Kevin, then we'll go to Keith.
Yes, based on this morning's discussions, I'm not going to be supporting this motion either. That road, as I said this morning, is absolutely abysmal. The only way we would even entertain looking at putting buses over that road up to Arnold's Cove is if we were guaranteed to have work service transportation, have that road absolutely pristine, no chance of an accident. Other than that, it stays where it is, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Keith?
Thank you, Vice Chair. As it stands right now, we've discussed this morning that it's 53 kilometers, 45-minute bus ride. These are ideal conditions. I too cannot support shutting the school down and having kids on these roads that can turn treacherous very, very quickly and are in bad shape, terrible shape at the best of times.
Any further discussion? No further discussion, I call the vote. Those in favor of the motion, raise your hands. Those against the motion? Therefore, the motion is rejected. Therefore, the status quo remains. Next item on the agenda, Lucy.
I don't have my screen.
Sorry about that.
Gord?
Okay, thank you. So the next school in our school reviews is the Point Leamington Academy school system. So the options to be considered by the board are to maintain status quo or close Leading Tickles Primary. The map indicates our two schools that we're discussing, Leading Tickles Primary and Point Leamington Academy. Student enrollment projections indicate that Leading Tickles Primary is projected to decrease from 9 to 4 students by 2019. Point Leamington Academy currently has 66 students and is projected to decrease to a low of 50 students by 2026. Leading Tickles Primary students can be accommodated at Point Leamington Academy with a maximum enrollment of 75 to a low of 57 in 2026. In terms of programs and services, there are learning opportunities for students. There will be more integration with age-level peers. The facility has no issues or concerns, but we have recognized that some facility improvements need to occur. It's a large building with a small population, and we need to do some design work internally. Included in that would be the CDLI room needs to be moved within Point Leamington Academy, and of course it's not an accessible building, so that would have to be part of it. In terms of transportation, consolidation results in one fewer bus being required, and the ride time is approximately 55 minutes. The estimated cost decrease in this is $49,000. In terms of financial considerations, consolidation results in potential savings of $73,000 in operating costs, one teaching unit, one bus, for total potential savings of $222,000. The feedback summary had 13 responses, and we looked to the ones from Leading Tickles Primary. There were 6, and all 6 voted no. The feedback themes included that students are too young, want us to find other ways to save money, keep the school open, length of the bus ride, road conditions, supervision, K-12 on one bus. They do not require a bus, as parents would be willing to take their children to school if the school remained. All students from Leading Tickles should stay in the community, minimally return to grade 4 to 6 students, and finances should not be a factor. During the public meeting, there were 4 presenters, and their themes focused on student transportation, length of the bus ride, road conditions, not supervised, K-12 students on one bus. And again, the busing would not be required, as parents would take their children to school. All students should stay in the community, minimally, the grades 4 to 6 being returned, and finances not be a factor. The recommendation is that we proceed with the closure of Leading Tickles Primary and rezone students to attend Point Leamington Academy. The rationale is that the school review has verified the information presented in the school review information booklet, which was the basis for the notice of motion on November 25th. This includes that Point Leamington Academy has capacity to accommodate students from Leading Tickles Primary. Student transportation distance and time can be provided within district norms, and the grades 4 to 12 students already ride the bus to Point Leamington Academy. Enhanced access to programs and services at the receiving school. We have increased potential for socialization with a broader student demographic, and we have projected savings of $222,000.
Mr. Chairman, the motion as displayed on the screen, whereas the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District is committed to providing the best possible education programs for students, and whereas school closure is required to achieve that objective, be it resolved that Leading Tickles Primary will close effective June 2018, and students will be rezoned to attend Point Leamington Academy effective September 2018. I so move.
Thank you, Wayne. Do I have a seconder for the motion, please? Moved by John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To open debate, this is a school that will have 4 students next year. There is more than adequate room in Point Leamington to accommodate them, and a substantial saving as well. We, of course, have had thorough discussion on this morning.
Any further discussion from this morning? Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Leading Tickles Primary, as Lucy said, is a K-3 school. School relatively new, only built a little over 10 years ago. And the reason that it was built is the reason today that it should stay open. It is an hour's ride to Point Leamington on a good day, and the roads are very treacherous in the winter time, and it's a safety concern. The community would like to have their elementary grades returned to Leading Tickles, and I will vote against this motion to close the school.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hayward.
Yes, I'd like to speak to this motion as well. I would just like to add to the discussion that I did visit Leading Tickles, Point Leamington, And I find that a more comprehensive review is required of that area, because there's actually 4 schools that we should be looking at and not just this particular school. And I think we need a comprehensive plan moving into the future for all the schools in the area. That's why I'll be voting against this motion.
Any further discussion? Kevin?
Just one further point. Those of us who went and walked into Leading Tickles and walked into Point Leamington realize that Point Leamington Academy needs absolute major upgrades if it is to receive any other primary students. And for that reason, I can't vote to close Leading Tickles.
Any further discussion? Keith?
Just further to the discussion that we had earlier this morning, just to reflect upon the sentiments that we learned as trustees that visited the community during the review consultation. It's far from being a good bus ride, and the distance and roads are a big factor. And the local MHA, you know, to Peter's point as well, MHAs, you know, have expressed their concerns here as well, and Tom, being the trustee, feels the same, that the school should stay open, and I would support the same.
Peter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be voting to keep the school open as well. I've really struggled with this one objectively as much as I can. We're talking a very, very small school population, and trying to find the finances in this and how it works at a time that we're having so much difficulty in the province when it comes to funding anything. Again, it speaks to the need that this board has to, I believe, that we really need some stronger direction from the provincial government, maybe to work into a rural engagement session or look at a rural education enhancement fund. As long as we are not need-based when it comes to staffing our schools, and we have to work with the provincial model, it doesn't incorporate and doesn't work well with the rural demands of the province, and there are places that are isolated. So, you know, on that note, I'd urge my fellow board members to consider that, you know, a 50-minute run on a bus on a good day on a bad road is unacceptable. Unfortunately, we need more support on how we're going to do this in the future.
Okay, Peter, any further discussion? No further discussion. I call the vote. Those in favor of the motion, aye, and raise your hands. Those against the motion? Motion is defeated. Next, Lucy.
Okay. The next reviews in our school system review today are in the western region of the district, and we'll begin with H.L. Strong Academy. The options to be considered by the board are to maintain the status quo or close H.L. Strong Academy. H.L. Strong is located on Little Bay Islands. H.L. Strong Academy currently has no students attending. The school is not projected to have any enrollment, and Little Bay Islands has a population of approximately 70 people. The consultation process included meeting with the parents of a grade 12 student who's currently attending Valmont Academy. There was no opposition to the school closing. And we also provided posters to distribute in the community with invitations to provide feedback to our web link. Student transportation. If any student enters the H.L. Strong Academy catchment, the nearest school system is the Dorset Collegiate System, which includes Green Bay South Academy, K-6 school in Roberts Arm, Dorset Collegiate, 7-12 school on Pilley's Island, and the travel time from Little Bay Islands is approximately 1 hour and requires a ferry ride. The financial considerations is that consolidation results in potential savings of $77,000 in operating costs. In terms of feedback, we received none. There was no public meeting. There was nobody who came forward who wanted to make a public presentation. Thus, we go to the recommendation that we proceed with the closure of H.L. Strong Academy. And the rationale is that the school review has verified the information presented in the school review information booklet, which was the basis for the notice of motion on November 25th. And this includes the fact there's no students in the school catchment zone, and there's projected savings of $77,000.
Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is as follows. Whereas the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District is committed to providing the best possible educational programs for students, and whereas school closure is required to achieve that objective, be it resolved that H.L. Strong Academy will close effective June 2018. I so move.
Do I hear a seconder of the motion? Seconded by John. This is a clear example of the rigorous process that the school board is subjected to when we're doing review of infrastructure, when we have to still go through this public consultation and extensive process when there are no actual students within facilities in order to bring about an end. But that said, we have the seconder. I'll move back to Wayne.
Mr. Chairman, obviously this is a school which has no students and no projected enrollment. However, you're quite correct. In order to do it properly, we have to go through this process, so the motion stands.
Any discussion? Not a word. Miraculous. All in favor? Those against? Motion carries. Lucy.
So our next school review is St. James High School System. And the options to be considered today are to maintain the status quo, school closure, that Legalis Memorial students attend St. James Elementary Regional High, or the school closure, that we close Legalis Memorial and students attend Grandy's River Collegiate. Our map shows where St. James Regional High and St. James Elementary in Port aux Basques, Legalis Memorial in Isle Morte, and Grandy's River Collegiate in Burnt Islands. The student enrollment projections is that Legalis Memorial is projected to have between 47 and 25 students from now to 2026. St. James Elementary projections are 262 and 280 students from now to 2026. St. James Regional High is projected to have between 311 and 230 in the same time period. And we go to Grandy's River Collegiate, which is projected to have between 99 and 69 students over the same time frame. Legalis Memorial students can be accommodated at St. James Elementary High or Grandy's River Collegiate. In terms of programs and services, we look at learning opportunities for students, and if they are bused to St. James School System or Grandy's River Collegiate, they'll have access to wider course offerings, more specialist teaching, more integration with age-level peers. Student transportation for the option to go to St. James Elementary High, and I want to point out to you the students are not currently bused to Legalis Memorial. However, students in grades 10 to 12 in Isle Morte are presently bused to St. James Regional High. Consolidation will require one additional bus, estimated cost of $45,000, and the distance from Isle Morte to Port aux Basques is 23 kilometers. The other option with regards to student transportation is going to Grandy's River Collegiate. The consolidation will require one additional bus, same estimated cost of $45,000, and the distance from Isle Morte to Burnt Islands is 11 kilometers. In terms of facilities, both options, there are no issues or concerns with the facility. No capital projects or repairs required, no health environmental concerns. All the required infrastructure is in place. And St. James Elementary High and Grandy's River Collegiate have capacity to accommodate students from Legalis Memorial. The financial considerations in the option of going to St. James Elementary High is that consolidation results in potential savings of $146,000 in operating costs, up to 4 teaching units, a half unit of admin. We have to factor in the increase of $45,000 to add the additional bus, and there's a total potential savings of $551,000 per year. The financial considerations, if we're going to Grandy's River Collegiate, the consolidation results in potential savings of $146,000 in operating costs, 1 teaching unit, a half unit of admin time, and of course factoring in the increase of $45,000 for the bus. This results in a total yearly savings of $251,000. The feedback summary indicates there was 18 responses, and we go directly to Legalis Memorial, 13 responses from that school community, asking if they agree. All 13 say no. However, 5 choose option 1 and 6 choose option 2, the option 1 being St. James Elementary High, option 2, Grandy's River. The feedback themes brought forth concerns over busing out of the community, particularly in winter, desire to save the community school, benefits of small classrooms and small populations, the belief that St. James is already stretched and overcrowded, concerns for students with exceptionalities and how they will deal with a new environment, concerns with bullying about being the outsider, and we do acknowledge that we have one concern that came to our attention yesterday about the busing provided in town during midterm exams for students to be picked up late, but wasn't included, that the students out of town in Isle Morte that didn't have that opportunity. And of course, the last one is the students falling through the cracks. The public meeting included 5 presenters. They brought forth the themes of confusion about the options and process. They should have been given the option to remain. They asked why other schools were allowed to provide feedback. They asked about the recent funding investment for infrastructure upgrades to the school. There was loss of after-school activities and sense of community. The themes included fear that they will not get the same attention in larger schools. The students like the current multi-grading approach at Legalis, and there's concerns about winter travel. The recommendation is that we proceed with the closure of Legalis Memorial and rezone students to attend St. James Elementary High. The school review has verified the information provided in the school review information booklet, which was the basis of the notice of motion on November 25th. And this includes that St. James High is the current catchment zone for our senior high students from Isle Morte, and they currently attend St. James High School. St. James Elementary and High have capacity to accommodate students from Legalis Memorial. Student transportation distance and time can be provided within district norms, and the grade 10 to 12 students are already being transported. There's enhanced access to programs and services at the receiving school, and increased opportunity for teacher collaboration at all grade levels with a projected savings of $551,000.
Wayne.
Mr. Chairman, the motion as projected on the screen is whereas the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District is committed to providing the best possible education programs for students, and whereas school closure is required to achieve that objective, be it resolved that Legalis Memorial will close effective June 2018, and all students will be rezoned to attend St. James Elementary High effective September 2018. I so move.
Thank you, Wayne. Do I have a seconder for the motion, please? Seconded by Lester. Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, to open debate, this is a school with a precipitous decline in enrollment, predicted to be as low as 25 students, and St. James is about 23 kilometers away. Legalis has multi-grading. St. James doesn't. It's simply a bigger school with more opportunity.
Any further discussion? No further discussion. Call the vote. Those in favor? Those against? Motion defeated. Next, Lucy.
So our next system for review is the Appalachia High School System. The options to be considered by the board are to maintain the status quo or consolidate Our Lady of Mercy Elementary and Appalachia High School. Student enrollment projections at Our Lady of Mercy Elementary currently has 146 students and is projected to vary between a low of 127 and a high of 142 over the next 10 years. Appalachia High currently has 115 students and is projected to vary between a low of 112 and a high of 138 in that time frame. Our Lady of Mercy and Appalachia High could be combined with the enrollment varying between 264 and 286 over the next 10 years. In terms of programs and services, with this consolidation, there will be more opportunity for teachers to collaborate across grade levels to enhance learning opportunities for students. The facility, there's no capital projects required. There's no health environmental concerns. All required infrastructure for programming is available. Combining the schools would allow both to use their space more effectively to meet programming needs. And the facility issues and concerns that have been identified are with the location of the main office and specifically the security and supervision of students. In terms of transportation, consolidation results in no change in the required number of buses. Financial considerations is that it would result in potential savings of 0.75 admin unit, and there's also a reduction from one 30-hour and one 35-hour secretarial positions to one 35-hour position. The total potential savings are $116,000 per year. The feedback summary had 72 responses, and we look at Our Lady of Mercy, which had 48. 1 voted yes and 47 no. We look at Appalachia High School, there were 6 responses. 2 voted yes and 4 voted no. The feedback themes were primary concern is student safety. If merged, supervision will be a problem. There's a concern for primary elementary students in the same school with older students, and the corridor between the 2 schools is too long for younger students. At the public meeting, there were 2 presenters, and the themes were about the loss of administrative and secretarial time, the location of the office, supervision felt there would not be adequate, and is not K-12 designed, there's no central admin office. There were concerns for student safety, particularly younger children getting lost or locked out. K-12 students should not mix, finances should not be a factor, and renovations would be needed, yet are not planned. The recommendation is that we proceed with the consolidation of Our Lady of Mercy Elementary and Appalachia High School, and the rationale being that the school review has verified the information presented in the school review information booklet, which was the basis of the notice of motion on November 25th. This information includes maximize the use of available space of both facilities to support programming, more opportunity for teachers to collaborate across grade levels to enhance learning opportunities for students, and projected savings of $116,000.
Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Same whereas the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District is committed to providing the best possible education programs for students, and whereas school closure is required to achieve that objective, be it resolved that Our Lady of Mercy Elementary and Appalachia High School will consolidate effective September 2018.
Thank you, Wayne. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Peter.
Mr. Chairman, to open debate, the intent here is to further consolidate a process that actually has physically taken place some time ago. The schools are physically joined, and in this case, I would say as the trustee from the area, it's working very well. However, there is a cost consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Call the vote. Those in favor of the motion? Those against? Motion carries. Lucy, next.
So our final review is James Cook Memorial School. And the options to be considered by the board are to maintain the status quo or close James Cook Memorial School. James Cook is located in Cook's Harbor, and of course the accommodating school would be White Hills Academy in St. Anthony. Our student enrollment projections is that James Cook Memorial currently has 9 students, is projected to vary between a low of 4 and a high of 8 in the next 10 years. White Hills Academy currently has 385 students, projected to vary between a low of 374 and a high of 404 in the same time frame. James Cook Memorial students could be accommodated at White Hills Academy with enrollment varying between a low of 378 and a high of 411 over the next 10 years. With programs and services, if students attend White Hills Academy, they'll have access to wider course offerings, more specialist teaching, and more integration with age-level peers. The facility, in this case, White Hills Academy has no facility issues, no capital projects, health or environmental concerns. All the required infrastructure is available, and White Hills Academy has the capacity to accommodate students from James Cook Memorial. With transportation, consolidation requires no change in the number of required buses. The distance to White Hills Academy is 48 kilometers, plus 1.5 kilometers for Wild Bite. The maximum ride time is approximately 55 minutes, and the run time is similar to a run that's nearby, which is the one from Lanza Meadows. The financial considerations is $113,000 in operating costs, 1 teaching unit, an increase of up to $15,000 to extend the bus route to White Hills, for total potential savings of $198,000 per year. The feedback summary had 4 responses, 2 from James Cook Memorial, 1 voted no, 1 undetermined. The feedback themes were impacts on students with challenges, developmental disabilities, travel distance, road conditions, and the commute during winter, and a potential loss of instructional time. The public meeting, there were 6 presenters. Their themes were long and treacherous roads with whiteouts, wildlife, poor communication, and poor maintenance. They asked if there would be a contingency plan for lost days should students not be able to attend White Hills Academy. Students will miss a lot of time, will not be able to travel on the many days when White Hills Academy is open. Travel times were estimated by the district in October, not in winter, thus it would be 55 minutes plus. Loss of after-school activity participation, and they asked if it was possible to downsize the school to K-6. The recommendation is that we proceed with the closure of James Cook Memorial and rezone students to attend White Hills Academy. The rationale is that the school review has verified the information presented in the school review information booklet, which was the basis for the notice of motion as of November 25th. And that information includes that White Hills Academy has the capacity to accommodate students from James Cook Memorial. Student transportation distance and time can be provided within district norms. There would be enhanced access to programs and services at the receiving school. There's an increased potential of socialization with a broader student demographic, and there's projected savings of $198,000.
Mr. Chairman, once again, the same whereases, the Newfoundland and Labrador English School District is committed to providing the best possible educational programs for students, and whereas school closure is required to achieve that objective, be it resolved that James Cook Memorial will close effective June 2018, and students will be rezoned to attend White Hills Academy effective September 2018.
Thank you, Wayne. Do I have a seconder for the motion, please? Seconded by John. Discussion?
To open debate, Mr. Chairman, this is a school that currently has 9 students. Over the next 10 years, the projected enrollment is as low as 4, but only as high as 8. There is plenty of room in St. Anthony and White Hills, and savings of $200,000.
Thank you, Wayne. Further discussion? Jennifer? Then Jennifer, and then on to Scott. No.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to this motion, I will be voting against the motion. I have since very severe concerns about putting small children on that highway, and I also, recognizing that we may be providing improved programming opportunities to the children, I do think that safety concerns with that particular stretch of highway and the lack of our ability to provide a concrete contingency plan should we run into some safety issues or severe weather makes me very concerned, so I'll be voting against the motion.
Scott?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Certainly very pleased this afternoon as the trustee for Zone 4 to be able to bring the interest of the James Cook Memorial School family to the table. Certainly pleased that the school community right across the province, including those at James Cook Memorial, are able to view our proceedings online. Very happy we're able to do that. In as much as I think that the school review process itself needs to be reviewed, I believe in this case it highlighted some very significant concerns and have given rise to some very significant issues, and I'll keep my comments brief. We've discussed it all, the distance, 48 kilometers school to school, 53.76 kilometers, the entire run, including a student from Wildbite, and of course we've been informed that in a couple of years' time we'll be adding a student, at least one, from Boat Harbour, which of course lengthens the drive and the commute on a daily basis. Very concerned with the road conditions, very concerned with weather conditions, and I believe my two biggest concerns, and the reason I certainly won't be supporting this motion, highlighted through the review process. You know, we've been made aware that in some places between Cooks Harbour and St. Anthony, there's no way to communicate with schools or with Cooks Harbour. Very concerning. But my biggest concern is that we don't have a plan for the loss of instructional time, and I don't want to overstate, but I believe that it's a very real issue, and it's an issue that we'd certainly have to deal with, and the lack of a plan going forward to deal with that, I certainly won't be supporting this motion.
Any further discussion? Keith, sorry.
Thank you. I was one of the fortunate trustees to make the trek as well and see it firsthand. Driving into this town, it's very picturesque to say the least, but you can easily see how things can change very quickly with a storm, and relying on the local people to inform me of different conditions that they face during the year, and the local trustee, being Scott, lives very close by. I support the motion of, I support voting to keep the school the way it is, to keep it open. I've had a conversation with a retired bus driver, and he tells me how treacherous it can be. I've also had a talk to the local, someone in the local municipality, and states their concern is they don't have a rescue truck. They just have a pumper truck, so that's a concern. And of course, dead zones exist in the communication road on the road to St. Anthony, where cell service wouldn't be available. So for all those reasons, I would not support the motion to close.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Therefore, I'll call the vote. Those in favor of the motion, aye with a raised hand. Those against the motion, motion is defeated. Thank you. This sort of concludes this section, but I would be really remiss if I didn't make this comment at the end of the motions and the discussion. There is, as I alluded to as we were going through the process, there's a really extensive responsibility on the school board to consult when we're reviewing school facilities and changes to our school facilities, whether it be in the closure of a school or in the changement of a catchment area. This consultation doesn't happen instantaneously. It takes a long period of time. And we are the benefit of an extensive professional staff around this province that puts a lot of time into the direction that we did. And that's clearly the case in this particular piece. And although the recommendations may not have been adopted at this particular time, that's not a reflection on the fact that the work that has been done and the completion of this consultations has been done at the highest level of professionalism. And certainly from the chair's point of view, I would like to thank the staff for that. And also, sometimes when we're going through these particular pieces and we're identifying different issues associated with different recommendations or different outcomes, such as safety, I would assure you that within the English School District, within all our staff and all the people around this table on an everyday basis in this geographically diverse province, that safety is absolutely critical, and that when we put our children on the roads in the morning and we make those decisions, they're clearly made with the best interest of students at heart. And although sometimes Mother Nature does it to all of us, we might fall on the wrong side. It's not because we haven't tried to make the inputs for the right reasons in the interest of children. And that's a tough job, and that's a tough job our professionals have to do on a day-to-day basis. Another issue is contingency plans. And again, I don't think, as I've traveled and I've been involved as a trustee around this province, that when issues arise in the classroom with attendance or snow days or anything, that the people in our schools, whether it be the school councils pushing their staff, whether it be the staff themselves, the administrators in the school, don't take that extra effort to try and reach out to the children within our system to make sure that the day-to-day requirements of their success are met or help to be achieved on those bases. So once again, with the same theme that we're going around, we have an extensive staff, and our system would be in deep trouble if we didn't have the professionalism that was demonstrated on a day-to-day basis in the province. And I thank Tony and all the senior team around this table and every single one of our employees and our over 250 sites of schools in this province that make this work on a day-to-day basis. Wayne.
If I may, at the conclusion of the session, I really want to commend and thank those trustees who made the effort to attend the public sessions. This is not in any way knock on those who couldn't make it because of personal, family, professional, business reasons or something like that. But not only did those trustees attend the sessions that I was chairing, but they engaged the public, they made their case, they listened, and they came back and made their case here. Also want to commend the staff on the tremendous amount of work that has gone into this. We just see the results of it, but there's an awful lot of backroom stuff that we don't know about. And finally, since I have the opportunity, never give me a mic, probably not a good idea, I do want to commend the teachers in the field. Some of our teachers, especially the younger teachers who are in the more isolated communities, are absolutely tremendous. I was humbled by their work, and I think any chance we do get an opportunity to say that, we should say it out loud because they're doing a great job out there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Hayward.
Thank you. I started out this morning having some concern about having to vote against a recommendation from the staff. And I just want to speak to that because I very much want to echo the comments of my former fellow trustees that I very much appreciate the work that our staff has done, and I think it has been yeoman service. But sometimes, you know, we all occupy different roles, and the staff have one role, and us as trustees have a different role, and the lenses we look through are sometimes different. The staff have a you know, a very deliberate role to play, and they see things from that particular role that they are engaged in. And of course, us as trustees have a different lens, and we see it because we're elected officials. We're not paid employees of the board, and sometimes the glasses that we wear allow us to see things in a different light. Having said that, I do want to commend all of the staff that I had the privilege of seeing in Swift Current and in Leading Tickles and in Cooks Harbor, in Appalachia, and of course around the Port of Bass area. I think the exercise that I myself engaged in as a trustee was very informative, and I would recommend that when we do, and if we do this process again, that trustees would take the opportunity to participate in the school review process. Thank you.
Thank you, Hayward. I think we should move on with the agenda. We are online, so the next items on the agenda are our regular committee reports. 5.1, Executive Committee Report, which will be the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Executive Committee report is in your kit. It's from the meeting on November 24th, 2017. There are no recommendations, no motions to bring forth, so I would move the adoption, the acceptance of the Executive Committee report, begging a seconder.
So I hear a seconder. John, seconded. Any discussion? Can we have, sorry about that, Corey, we're having trouble with the audio. Normally you're a lot louder.
Thank you. No, just looking for clarification on 5.4, the board meeting minutes, the context in which the executive would have discussed that item.
Sorry, what was the question?
My question is the context that it would have been brought up at the executive level. Were the previous board minutes being too long or too detailed in the past? And
what was done and not what was said, and it had a lot of he said, she said in there, so we changed it.
Okay.
I'm just curious from
okay,
a trustee perspective how it would have got to executive level. You know, I thought from a personal perspective, I didn't take notice of any issues with previous set of minutes. So
what we did at the and I'll stand corrected from the executive, is at one of the board meetings we had a item of discussion that didn't follow the normal format. It was a he said, she said type of format, and the minutes were done in two different formats. One of the minutes that we normally do at the table are directed towards decision making and substantive sort of group discussion points associated with that decision. That
Thank
particular, that's the reason why that was in the minutes. No, it was the formatting of the minutes that were presented. Any further discussion? Nothing further. Can all in favor of adopting the Executive Committee's report? Those against? Motion carries. Next is the Finance and Operations Committee, so I'll move to Tom.
Oh, sorry. You all have the minutes of our last meeting at the Finance and Operations Committee, January 23rd, 2018. We have some motions to bring forward. Under the 1.1 quarterly budget financial update ending September 30th, 2017, you can see there we have a revised budget of $771.4 million. We have total expenses. We have a percentage of budget remaining, 79%. And expenses are expected to remain within the budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year. Although certain expenditures may exceed the approved budget allocation and budget transfers within these categories. The motion is that the Finance and Operations Committee recommend to the Board approval of the revised quarterly budget status update for the period ending September the 30th, 2017.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Ray. Discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Those against? The motion carries. Tom?
Next one is 1.2, the internal audit policy. Carla Freak is our internal auditor, and she attended our meeting and provided a brief description and background regarding the proposed internal audit policy. The Newfoundland Labrador English School District has established an internal audit division to conduct independent reviews and appraisal of NLESD various operations and systems of control. The motion that I'm bringing forward from the committee is that the Finance and Operations Committee recommend to the Board approval of the internal audit policy and related documents.
Do I hear a seconder? Seconded by Corey. Any discussion? Obviously, this is part of our kit, so no discussion. All in favor? Those against? Motion carries.
Thank you, Chair.
Tom, you're dominating the meeting.
1.3, agree on summary of 1.6 kilometer discussion points as prepared by Peter on November the 26th, 2017. You can see the recommendations there that were put forward. And this item is for information purposes only. Now, I don't know if we plan to discuss it now or tomorrow.
It would be tomorrow. This is just an information process only, and it's in the record now, and then we'll have a discussion after the meeting.
So we'll do that tomorrow morning.
That's correct.
Thank you. Next one, the costing of school board consultations. And this item, as you can see, is for information purposes only as well. And I think that is on the agenda as well.
For tomorrow, yeah.
1.5, school-based budgeting. That's for your information. 1.6, impact of cameras on buses. Also for your information. So I don't know, Chair, whether you're entertaining questions on those items or not.
What we do is with the minutes of the meetings and stuff like that, when you present the motion to adopt those,
Okay.
then if there's any questions around the table, the trustees will ask the questions. Okay, so have you got a motion to accept your report?
I can
In minutes?
I can move that. I move the motion to adopt the Finance and Operations Committee report.
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Peter? Discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Those against? Motion carries. Kevin? With the Programs and Human Resources.
Mr. Chair, if you look at our kit package, we have two motions to put forward. The first one is under Programs Policy, GOV 109, Political Activity in Schools. This policy was collaboratively determined by the Programs and HR Committee through a Google document. It was further developed by information generated through that process. The committee discussed it, we refined it, we put it face to face, we put it back to board personnel. And what's in your kit should be the final version of that policy. And I'll put it to motion that the Programs and HR Committee recommend to the board approval of the Political Activity in Schools policy as tabled at the January 25th, 2018 meeting of the HR Committee at the board. Look for a seconder.
Seconded by
Jennifer?
John.
John, okay.
Discussion? All in favor? Those against? Motion carries.
Our second policy refers to Program 309, Research, Studies, and Surveys. Again, this stems from policies that were inactive or active in some parts of the old board, but not in others. It allows for researchers and surveys to be conducted in our schools with proper protocols. That being said, again, it's in your kit. I'll move that the Programs and HR Committee recommend that we recommend to the board approval of the research, studies, and surveys policy as tabled at the January 25 meeting.
Can I get a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Jennifer. Any questions, discussion? All in favor? Those against? Motion carries.
Thank you. The only other item for discussion today, simply to inform, and it's there in your package as well, that we are looking at French policy, coming up with guidelines for French policy throughout the board, and that has been part of our discussion at the last meeting. It will be part of tomorrow's discussion, and will be discussions down the road. There are other policies, as I said to Lucy, in the queue, and so we've got, by this time next year, we'll have gone through perhaps 6 or 7 new policies. We're not inactive. That being said, I move that the board accept this report.
Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Lester. Any discussion? On a point, Corey, sorry. You need the mic again.
Thank you, Ken. Just looking for a clarification on the French policy discussion. Appreciate the work the staff and the HR and Programs Committee is doing on that. At last board meeting in November, I requested that no decisions be made on future of any French programs, in particular in the Marystown area, but as well across the province until such guidelines and policies are put in place. So is that the direction we're going in, that there be no decisions on the future of the program until such guidelines are put in place, or?
That is, I think we're going to go to Tony, but I think the discussion is on again tomorrow in our session, and as Kevin alluded to, this is an ongoing dialogue, so there hasn't been any decisions made, but we'll flip to Tony to make sure it's all in.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've developed draft guidelines that will be discussed in the committee piece tomorrow. There are some decisions that are part of the normal course of business that I don't think interfere with the guidelines that would carry on. For example, we had to inform people currently about existing programs and such. So those existing programs, but I know the case that you're referring to, no decision will be made till guidelines are established.
Thank you.
Any further questions or clarifications? All in favor of adopting the report? Those against? Motion carries. Thank you. New business, NLESD fall report. Are we going to Tony or Heather?
Well, I could speak to it. We're very early into our strategic plan. You know, we just culminated one 3-year cycle, and now we've just begun another 3-year cycle. So really, this is just an indication of we've started on some of the initiatives, and none of them are in a completion mode. We're just indicating where we are at this point in time. Obviously, at the end of this year, we'll have a more robust report to make on the strategic plan report. If there's any questions on the existing report, we're open to them. And Heather, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Any further questions? If not, we're going to go to Wayne for...
Chairman, I move that the board accept the full report as tabled.
Can I get a seconder for that motion? Seconded by John. All in favor? Those against? Motion carried. Next report is actually the Newfoundland and Labrador School Board's report. It'll be a verbal report. At our last meeting, we were reactivating through an AGM with our Francophone contemporaries at around the Christmas period. This did take place with the representatives around this table, myself, John George, and John, the two Johnnies, sorry. That's why it's escaped me, and our counterparts from the Francophone Association. When they participated in the meeting, they didn't have the full representation on their side, so we deferred the election of officers associated with a normal AGM that that normally takes place with this organization. The other piece that has agreed to at the meeting, and you'll receive it in a formal report in writing, is that they've identified some topics of cooperation that need to be done over the short time in addressing to the minister. So, one of the topics that was discussed deals with the benefits associated with trustees and some of our priorities, that they have similar interests on the Francophone side. So stay tuned for that. The other piece associated with the NLSBA and the CSBA, more recent, and you've seen it through some of the traffic that's come from our trustees, is the change of direction in Nova Scotia in terms of going from elected trustees to appointed advisory council over the next little while, and the speed with which that is transpiring. The Canadian school boards, as the table already knows, was planning on hosting their PD Congress for trustees in Nova Scotia this summer. The intent is that is going to continue. It probably will not continue as a hosted arrangement with the Nova Scotia Board because they won't exist, but it will be hosted by the Canadian school boards in cooperation across the province, which will also focus that whole thing on what's transpired over the last little while in Nova Scotia. These changes obviously have been in Atlantic Canada, have been precipitated in a lot of cases, whether it be in PEI, whether it be in New Brunswick, now obviously in Nova Scotia. Some of the transitions that took place in our particular context, although we were able to maintain the elected trustee component, some of these activities have been tried as we go across Canada. So the cumulative learning base that's out there through other provincial jurisdictions, you will start to see more about those reports coming out and the support of that. The formal report will be written and be submitted soon. Any questions specifically regarding the NLSB update? Okay, can I get I'll move a motion to accept the verbal report as presented. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by John. All in favor? Those against? Motion carries. Second piece is 6.3, School Milk Foundation report. Keith.
It's in the package. They sent it to me. So, oh, it's in the package there? Oh, you can't get it open. Oh, okay. Actually, it's in this package too. If you want to give it to me?
Okay. Just one second.
Sure.
If anyone else can,
Oh, he's got it?
Oh, he's going to give it to him there now.
Okay.
So the AGM happened on November the 24th. The summary of the AGM, the school year was extremely successful for the SMF. It was this is my first year being on the foundation, so it's a learning curve for me. I understand that there's a lot of work being done with their partners to promote the consumption of milk in the schools. And as I said, a learning curve to me was the fact that one interesting note that I took back was that the milk is sold at a loss in the school, and I had no idea. Out of greenness, I had no idea that you're, selling these products at a loss. And it was interesting to note. I had brought to the table the importance of trying to partner up with more athletic departments and recreational facilities, volleyball, basketball, etc., to try to partner up to promote their milk that way, and that was well received. They had 241 of 262 schools registered with the school milk program, so it was only 21 unregistered, and they looked at that as being hugely successful. They talked about the consumption, and it was a 2% increase in sales. The upward trend did not continue for the remainder of the school year. 2% decline in school milk sales as the year went on. And they have also hired a new person with regards to promotion within the SMF. And apparently the person is coming with lots of vigor and excitement to try to promote, and is going to different schools to campaign. And you can have a look at in your package there, you'll see the promotions for 27 to 2018. And they're very excited about that. And the trade shows and events are also noted. You can have a look through there. And the regionalization, it's not mentioned here, but one thing that they are really trying to get across is there's so many schools in the metro area, and it's very hard for them to get to each one of these schools, especially when you have someone on salary it seems to be above and beyond their scope to go to so many schools. So not every year, of course, with so many schools can this person get to every school, so they have to stagger it. And they've also created a school milk video, and this was to showcase the program and its partners in the province's dairy industry. It was very successful, and when I saw the video, I actually knew a couple of people in it, so It's a very Newfoundlandia type of video, and if you get a chance to have a look at it, you quite enjoy it. And other than that, like I say, it was a learning curve for me. Very interesting. I think Peter was on it. Were you Peter last year, School Milk? So, any questions?
Thank you, Keith. Do you motion to accept the report by Keith, seconder? Seconded by Peter. All in favor? Those against? Motion carries. Thank you, Keith. The next one, the Education Foundation report. They hadn't met, so obviously there's no report. So we'll look forward to the next cycle to get that. The NLESD report, there's no report, but there will be a verbal update from Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The current board of the Newfoundland Labrador International Student Education, Inc., which consists of the CEO, the Associate Director, and myself, have just had some more discussions on what we would like to use some of the funding for. We're going to meet again next week to formalize it so we can bring it back to the appropriate committee of this board. We're looking at continuing on some of the training initiatives that we have started over the last year or so that were critical, that we need to keep going, and also purchasing some more learning resource material for our classrooms, which we've started over the last couple of years, making sure each classroom gets outfitted with appropriate resources that we're trying to advance our literacy initiative. And some of those you'll hear about a little later in the actual director's report, some of the materials that we purchase for schools. So next week we'll be getting together to actually formalize these requests for the use of funds to bring back to the committee.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. Any questions for Terry? You need a motion. Just in keeping with the other reports, we'll can I get someone to move a motion that we accept that report? Moved by Wayne, seconded by John. All in favor? Aye. Those against? Motion carries. Thank you, Terry. That concludes the new business section of our agenda. Now we're on to the correspondence, both outgoing and ingoing. And same as the format, they're included in your packages. If there's anything that anyone wants to raise or questions associated with this, then we'll go down through those questions. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 8.9, letter from the Minister to the Board of Trustees regarding the disposal of the vacant school properties throughout the district. Maybe at our next meeting, we could have a session about that and could be presented with what exists around the province. It's been a while since we visited that.
Absolutely.
Because urban versus rural probably has different challenges when you're trying to dispose of properties, and maybe there's times when government needs to be more engaged as just opposed to the board and the district.
What we should do, and just so we follow our sort of form and practice, is the committee should get a presentation, the finance committee should get a presentation from Terry, and then that full presentation should be forwarded to the board as a whole for trustees. Then we can do the discussion on it at the table.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay?
Sounds good. Yep.
Thank you for that, Scott. Any further questions or discussion associated with Peter? Yep.
Just wondering if there's any update on Bishop Field School.
No, the engineering assessment is ongoing, and we expect to report by the end of February. There's been no new information.
Okay, and just want to see some clarification from the chair. As you know, the catchment area there is sort of designed to strangle the school and really not provide it with the catchment area that reflects its community. Where and when would I be able to bring forward a motion to review the catchment area at Bishop Field?
Okay, so basically what we do, and we've said around the table before, we have a process that looks at school review process and catchment area. The next cycle, I think I was corrected earlier on by someone in the room, probably Wince. I said it was in Gantt or our next meeting that we actually propose the reviews for next year. I think it's in our June meeting that we do that. That would be the formal time that you would, that catchment review request would be put to the table, and then your contemporaries around the table would prioritize it, and then we'd
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anything further associated with correspondence and? Okay, nothing further. Next item is 9, Director's Report. He's got off remarkably easy today. We're going to have to step that up.
Yes.
Okay. Get the screen there.
That screen can't work. The small one can't work while we're broadcasting. Apparently.
Need the slide.
Yes. Okay. Terry, 8.2, letter from the town of CBS, demolition. Yes. So this will be caught in the review that Scott was talking about and the full update of all our yeah. Okay, thank you, Tom. Is our Tony ready?
There you go.
Give her.
Okay, a little bit of a departure from the director's report. Usually we choose a wide range of issues. This time we decided to, or I decided to focus on one particular aspect in particular, and we'll go through some of the other details at the end. And we have a little bit of display that we'll incorporate as well as some videos. And really, this is with respect to our literacy plan, and very specifically, the leveled learning intervention, to explain to our Board of Trustees and anybody that's watching online the importance of reading. This is a key pillar in our strategic plan around improving student performance, student achievement. And the research is clear. If children cannot read proficiently by the end of the 3rd grade, they face daunting hurdles to success in school and beyond. So literacy is a critical part of our strategic plan and a key focus of student success strategic issue over the next 3 years. In fact, we've been doing this for a while, and as we roll it out in this next 3 years, we're also going to lean into extending that learning plan and assessment framework into grades 7 to 9. The board expects all schools to maintain a focus on core literacy and numeracy, and to ensure this focus is incorporated into school growth and development plans. So, our student success objective number 1, and that's why we're focusing on this morning, or today, is full implementation of the benchmark assessment system, what we call BAS 1 and 2, in grades 1 through 6. We've identified and supported additional schools in the use of LLI resources, and we've developed professional learning around BAS and LLI to support reading and writing initiatives. And as I say, we've begun to extend the Literacy for Learning plan into the intermediate grade levels. So I'll call upon Lucy now to take us through a bit of a report on exactly what BAS looks like and LLI, and then I'll conclude with some pleas to you regarding financial support in the future.
Thank you, Tony. So we chose to focus on literacy. We spent so much time of our focus at the district level talking about literacy and the importance of it. And of course, at the school level, they spent so much time focused on the importance of students learning to read. Our our primary focus is actually on our primary students. So it's in kindergarten to grade 3, specifically grades 1 to 3, where we have an intense focus on students learning to read. And we all know that the effect of intervention is immense. When someone can't do something, if any of us can have that little extra, sometimes, you know, we're able to grasp it and move on. And what we really want for our children in terms of learning to read is we want to provide that intervention at that key time in the primary grades when they actually become accomplished readers. And many of our students, you know, they go through the classroom instruction and they learn to read. They learn to read is just a natural process. But for struggling readers, we need to do something that's different. So what we've chosen over the past 4 or 5 years, we've chosen two tools, 2 resources. We talk about them a lot to you, and today I just wanted to explain a little more in depth what they are. And we're going to show a video of a teacher who's actually using it with her students. So the benchmark assessment kit is actually the tool, it's the diagnostic tool where teachers assess where children are with their reading. So based upon that assessment, we determine if children are reading at grade level, what strategies they have, what they need to do next for all readers. So even children who are reading well, it tells us what they need to do next to read better. And of course, accompanying reading is also writing. But one of the other tool that we have is for the struggling readers. We've purchased the Leveled Literacy Intervention Program. And if you look up here, you'll see that it's all laid out. These are LLI kits, we refer to them. Starts over with the orange ones, and this begins in kindergartens where we started using the orange levels. The green ones generally match to grade 1s, but it doesn't mean that we wouldn't have, you know, it's not necessarily attached to grade level, but it is somewhat aligned. So we have, these are the 4 levels. The green one is generally what most of our schools have when we begin in grade 1 because it's a key time. Many of our schools also have a blue kit. We're working towards all of our schools having the kits they need to teach children who need that extra support. What I wanted to share with you is that these kits cost, I think the cheapest one is $4,600. And as you get over this way into the red ones, which is for higher grades for children who are struggling readers, is that they become more expensive. So they're as much as $7,500 for kit for one school. If you have a lot of classes at one grade level, you need more than one kit because you can't have teacher run out the hallway and get a book for a student. So in the kits we have the leveled books. They allow, this is not one of them by the way, I'll pick one from the table here. They allow teachers to match exactly the strategies that a student needs to read to the next level. When they accomplish this particular book, then we choose another one. So the teacher, there's guided instruction in these kits for what teachers are to do for children who have specific reading difficulties. So we have these kits, and I share that with you because we've invested a lot of money, and we're going to come forward pretty soon and ask you for some more to support our schools to purchase additional kits. So the leveled literacy intervention is really a tool for the small group of students in a class that need additional instruction for specific strategies they are to gain to learn to read and, of course, to write. So I showed you what the kits look like, and really the goal of LLI is that we give children who are struggling to read, we give them that additional boost that gets them to the grade level and enables them then to be able to progress with their grade level peers. We did a pilot in this about 3 years ago. We started a pilot with 11 schools. And we had 11 schools and they all had a kit. So we did professional learning with our teachers in those 11 schools, and they tried it to see what the results would be. The results that came back, they speak very highly of it. Our teachers really like it. In some schools, every teacher in the primary elementary grades have training to be able to use LLI to support struggling students. So we have this is our pilot information. We identified in the schools there were 146 students that were struggling to read. After using LLI, which is a series of lessons in these kits, that 88 88 of the students, or 60%, were able to move on with that bit of intense intervention. We had 35 of the 146 needed some further work. So that means that they will continue to receive the intense instruction until they actually learn to read. All children won't accomplish that in the same period of time. And of course, we had 24 students who were still experiencing difficulty despite this intervention. So the next step would be referral to our Student Support Services team to do some further assessment to see if they actually have some learning disability and would require a different type of intervention. What I'm going to show you next is actually a video of a teacher who's doing these lessons in her classroom, and we want to show you how it works. This table that's set up here is in many of our primary classrooms. It's called a kidney table. And it's shaped and positioned so the teacher can sit here and have 1, 2, 3, or 4 children positioned around her so she can provide that intense instruction that they need to this small group. And this goes on for a period of time. They have a lesson that's every day for a period of time until they actually are accomplished. So what we're going to see here is going to be a grade 1 classroom. And in this classroom, there's 26 grade 1 students. So there's 26 6-year-olds. The teacher will start off in their literacy block. She'll start off doing a whole group lesson with all the students. She'll have them gathered around her. What you'll see then is that the students that she's not going to work with in the LLI lesson, she's going to work with 4, but for 22 of them, they are going to go do independent activities, reading and writing activities that supports where they are as readers and writers. So they actually get some choice in which activity they're going to do, and of course the choice then increases engagement. So the 22 students, they'll park themselves in different areas of the classroom. You'll see them with headsets on. You'll see them over in the corner. You'll see them curled up with a book. You'll see some writing. And it's actually fascinating that you go in a classroom and see 26 6-year-olds, and the teacher can work with those, and you see the others going about doing work independently. And we see this different grade levels. And I guess what I really want to stress is that the teacher has taught the routines for how this works, and the students are now, they know what they have to do in every class. Once the teacher she's going to do an LLI lesson with 4 students. We'll just see a little clip. And then we're going to see her using the BAS kit to do a reading record with one little girl. So she sits down to see if that child has progressed and what she needs next. Then we'll see her bring all of her students back, and they have the conclusion to their lesson. So it comes back to full group, and then a student shares what they've learned or what they've done through this lesson today. So it's about a 3.5-minute video, but I just wanted to prompt you for some of the things that you'll watch for about the gathering of the group, how the children take it upon themselves to find the things they need to do. Quite a bit of work on the teacher's part to have all that prepared in advance for every child based on their own individual learning needs. So I'm going to ask if Jeff would just turn on that video. Is there anything I need to do? Here we are, the teacher with her kidney table.
And it starts with an R. You think it might be rock? Okay, so let's see. Well, let's look at the ending sound. See if we're right. What sound does R make? R. And what about G? G. Right. So let's try our middle sound.
Let's look at this one. Okay, how did you know it was the, not this?
Because this starts with an S at the end.
Well, it has an S on the end. Good for you. And the, does the have an S on it? What sound does TH make? Right, they both have TH in the beginning, don't they? Good for you. Oh, now let's look at this. Good job.
See the teachers still carrying on with the lesson even though they're getting up, changing their activities.
Are you ready?
Kate has a loose tooth. Her tooth was very loose. Kate played with her tooth, but it did not come out.
Why are you excited for your tooth to get wiggly?
Because I really want to get some toys from the Tooth Fairy.
You think sometimes the Tooth Fairy brings toys?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I watched that in a video.
Did you? In what video?
In a video that, it's called Come Play With Me.
Oh, is it? And is that what this book reminded you of?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good.
And I noticed this reminds me of dancing.
Why?
Because it has a ballerina on it.
And are you a ballerina? Yeah, you know how to make that move?
Maybe. Try. Yep.
You can do it. Good job.
Let's read this one that you did.
Goal for Austin Matthews. He
Goal for Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
He
scored in the net. Ollie tried to save it. Austin Matthews one of the best players.
Wow. Good job. And then this is a picture of what's happening in the picture.
He scored.
He scored. Austin. Who's Austin Matthews?
He's one of the best players.
Okay, so we just want to have a little glimpse inside a classroom what a teacher does using these resources in terms of teaching, young children to read. The other thing we wanted to show you is we are teaching teachers how to do this. So that's the role of our program specialists mostly. And of course, our teachers who are doing these things are modeling for other teachers is where we want to be. So what we also have is when we're doing professional learning sessions for teachers, like we've done this, we've done the BAS training has been done with grades 1 and 4 teachers, all of them, 3 years ago. Then we did all grade 2 and 5 teachers, and then we did all grade 3 and 6 teachers. And along with that, we did sessions for a number of teachers on how to use LLI. And we're still doing those. They're still ongoing. Every year we put on the BAS sessions so that every teacher in the system now, as they come in or return from leave, gets to do that professional learning. So what we're also able to do now, as some of our teachers have these things and they've practiced and they're great at it, like the teacher we just saw in the video, is that when we're doing professional learning sessions, we actually can use technology to do the same thing we did there, and we go to a live classroom where a teacher is actually doing this. So our program specialists arrange for the teacher, we connect with the teacher and say, at 10:30, can you be doing this so that we can link with your classroom through Skype, and you can show the teachers in the room what you're doing with BAS or LLI or anything else that we're trying to do. So the next video clip is about a minute, it's about 30
People
seconds,
are still
I think.
trying to make sense of the disability.
Okay, so we're going to see teachers at the District Conference Center here in St. John's that are linking to a classroom.
Fans, arrowheads.
Why is that in brackets?
Because
That's what the fans call themselves. Good.
arrowheads have written books on the topic, created websites, produced docudramas. Some have even searched for the missing blueprints and pieces of the play without much success.
And actually, that was a grade 6 class where teachers doing an LLI reading, teaching some struggling readers how to read. I apologize for the video quality. It's difficult to get clear sound when we're actually doing it in classrooms with children without having everybody mic, so I apologize for that.
Thank you, Lucy. Can we get the slides back, please? Okay, so we've got some pretty strong evidence that this has a real effect, particularly when you look at the LLI data and how we've actually done an intervention and tracked the improvement and quantified it. So this is important stuff. We're really pleased. We're excited about where this is going. Some of this probably won't be realized, the true effect, till many years down the road, when those kids in that video become the 15-year-olds that do the international testing, and we see the results from that. But we believe that we're on the right track, strongly believe. You all know that the Premier's Task Force on Improving Educational Outcomes occurred over the summer period, and we had significant opportunity for input into that. We had several sessions with them, as did you, and we believe that they listened. And the recommendations that are in the task force report align very well with the use of BAS and LLI. So we are able to, we believe we were able to align those recommendations and that this is a great way forward. In terms of the financial investment, and this doesn't include anything that we obtain from the Department of Education to support the purchase of BAS kits, but our own investments since July 2015 spent about $1.4 million on BAS and LLI, and that breaks down into $650,000 for BAS resources and $750,000 for the LLI. The LLI, there's less of the kits, but they're more expensive. Of the 195 schools that have elementary grade levels, 125 of those schools currently have LLI resources. So we need to keep going here, and there's a gap that needs to be filled. So next steps, and this is sort of this is where I'm pitching to you. Terry referenced the international student education, and out of that we derive a significant amount of funding that we can leverage on the programs that we really want to support. So when that committee gets together, this is going to be one of our pitches. We want to use some of that funding to expand the LLI resource. So that ends really the literacy portion of the director's report, and again I say it's a bit of a departure because we focused on that one particular aspect. But just to conclude with some good news throughout the district, I would be remiss if I did not point out that we had two of our principals, Mike Tobin at Paradise Elementary and John Antle, Exploits Valley Intermediate, recently recognized by the Learning Partnership as one of two of Canada's outstanding principals, and that's just been recently announced, and they're going to go off to be to a fantastic executive leaders training package in the nation's capital in the coming weeks. So we're very proud of that. We're also proud of some of our students who are this weekend in Toronto. We have 3 finalists out of 5,000 applicants across the country for the Loran scholarships. Now this scholarship, they'll already get to the tune of some $5,000 already, but they're eligible then for some of this group that's in Ottawa. I think there's 88 of them. There's going to be 34 that are going to be awarded $100,000 scholarships, which is quite something to see them through their. They'll be future leaders within Canada for sure, regardless if they achieve the full 100,000 or not. A tremendous accomplishment. As well, we've had our Bell Let's Talk. A lot of our schools embraced this fully, and quite a bit of activity during the Bell Let's Talk Day. That accentuates, of course, our focus as well on mental health initiatives. So finally, I'll conclude. Thank you. That subject to questions, Chair, that is the Director's report.
Any questions? Thank you, Tony, for the report. The workload that you've had to perform in the last week or two has been extremely extensive, so it's really recognized when you do the pieces as well with the support from your staff. Any other questions for the director? If not, that concludes our afternoon, and it's just a matter of adjournment. Just 1 second. Point of information? A question.
We have defeated 4.14, which was the motion to close Legalis and move into St. James, correct?
Yeah,
Is it appropriate at this point to enter a notice of motion to close Legalis and move them to Granite River?
no, we have to do it, as we alluded to this morning, we have to go through a review process to do that. We haven't gone through the process that looks at that, so we'd have to follow the same thing that Peter was talking about in terms of the catchment review. We have to follow that same initiative, okay? Yeah, but that's right. Any further, sorry, did you have something else? No? Tom was going to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Tom. Don't need a seconder. All in favor? Good. Tomorrow morning, we're at the school district.
8:30, yep.
What? I guess we can entertain it tomorrow at a close because it's not in order for now. Okay? Thank you. Is that the third time?